Nobody ever told you these 5 truths about your lack of confidence. You have watched someone less qualified than you get the thing you wanted, the promotion, the opportunity, the room's attention, the outcome you had prepared harder for, thought more carefully about, and deserved, by any objective measure, more than the person who walked away with it. And you stood there, knowing you were more capable, knowing your work was better, knowing that if anyone had simply looked, really looked, they would have seen it, but they didn't look, or they looked and saw something in the other person that they didn't see in you, and you don't know what it was, which is almost worse than knowing, because you have been trying to figure it out ever since. You've read the books, you've taken the courses, you've stood in front of mirrors, practicing the body language, and the eye contact, and the firm handshake, and yet, something is still missing, some quality in the other person that you can feel but cannot name, cannot replicate, cannot acquire through any of the methods you have been given. I know what it is, and I can tell you with certainty that you have been looking in completely the wrong direction. Here are the 5 truths that nobody, not even your parents, teachers, or mentors ever told about confidence. 1. Real confidence is not a feeling, it is a practice built from evidence. The first and most damaging lie told about confidence is that it is something you either have or you don't, a personality trait, a gift, something the lucky ones were born with, and the rest of you simply lack. This is not psychology. This is mythology. Real, durable, room-commanding confidence is not a feeling that precedes action. It is a conclusion that follows it. It is built brick by brick from evidence that you have collected by doing hard things and surviving them. Every time you had the conversation you were afraid of, and it went okay, you deposited a brick. Every time you submitted the work, despite the fear of judgment, and the world continued to turn, you deposited a brick. Every time you said the thing, took the risk, walked into the room you weren't sure you belonged in, and discovered that you were more capable than your fear predicted. Brick, brick, brick. The person in the room who commands it, without apparent effort, is not someone who feels no fear. They are someone who has collected enough evidence, through enough action, through enough survived risk, that their internal assessment of their own capability is based on a track record rather than a hope. The way to build confidence is not to feel it first. It is to act it first and let the evidence build the feeling. Start with the smallest possible action, the one that is just beyond comfortable. Do it, survive it. Note the survival. That note, that conscious acknowledgement, is the brick, and enough bricks build something that cannot be shaken by a single bad day or a single person's opinion. 2. What you call lack of confidence is usually the presence of a specific fear, and fears have addresses. Confidence is not a single thing, which means the lack of it is never a single thing either. When people say they lack confidence, what they almost always mean is that they lack confidence in a specific context, in front of specific people, for specific reasons that are traceable to specific experiences. The person who is completely confident in their professional domain but falls apart in social situations. The person who commands authority with strangers but becomes small in front of their family. The person who is fearless in physical environments but paralyzed by intellectual scrutiny. These are not people with a confidence problem. They are people with a specific fear that has been generalized into a belief about themselves. And fears, unlike general beliefs, have addresses, specific locations in the past where they were created. Finding the address doesn't automatically dissolve the fear, but it immediately removes its authority over your entire identity, because a fear that was created in a specific situation, by a specific experience, in a specific relationship, is not evidence of a fundamental flaw. It is a learned response to a specific stimulus, and learned responses can be unlearned through exposure, through new evidence, through the slow accumulation of experiences that contradict what the fear insists is true. 3. Confidence is destroyed more by self-comparison than by failure. Of all the confidence killers, and there are many, this one is the most efficient, the most thorough, the most complete in its ability to dismantle whatever sense of self-worth you have managed to build. Comparison, not to an abstract standard, to specific other people. Real, visible, successful, apparently effortless. Other people whose highlight reel you are comparing to your behind the scenes. Social media has made this catastrophically worse. You now have access, at every moment of every day, to a curated presentation of the most successful moments of thousands of people's lives. And your brain, the same brain that is designed to assess social standing and adjust behavior accordingly, receives this as data. Data that says everyone else is further along, everyone else has figured it out, everyone else is more capable, more together, more deserving than you are. It is not data, it is a performance, but the brain cannot always tell the difference. The research is consistent. High rates of social comparison are directly correlated with lower confidence, lower self-worth, higher anxiety and depression, and paradoxically, lower achievement, because a person whose attention is consumed by comparison has almost no attention left for the work that would actually move them forward. The intervention is not to stop caring about others. It is to redirect the comparison. The only comparison that builds confidence is the one between who you are today and who you were 6 months ago. That is the only data that is actually about you. That is the only trajectory you can influence. Measure that exclusively and watch what happens to your sense of capability when the only standard it is measured against is one you set for yourself. For the confidence you perform is less powerful than the vulnerability you show. This will challenge everything you have been told about projecting confidence: the body language, the voice modulation, the controlled affect, the performance of certainty. It works up to a point. It creates an impression of confidence that influences how others see you in low-stakes, surface-level interactions, but in high-stakes situations, in rooms where it really matters, with people who are perceptive, performed confidence is detected, not always consciously, but felt as a slight inauthenticity, a gap between what is being projected and what is actually present. And that gap, in a world where most people are performing, makes the rare person who drops it extraordinarily compelling. Research by Brené Brown, and confirmed by dozens of subsequent studies, shows that the quality most associated with genuine authority and trust, not liked, not popular, but trusted, is not confidence. It is authenticity, the willingness to say, "I don't know, but here is what I think. This is harder than I expected. I got this wrong." These admissions do not diminish authority in the right context, delivered by someone who is otherwise competent. They expand it because they signal something that performed confidence never can: that you are real, that what you show is what exists, that your agreement means something, because your disagreement is also possible. Trust flows toward the real person, always. 5. Your inner voice is either your greatest asset or your most consistent enemy, and you can choose which. Everything in this video, every truth, every intervention, every piece of evidence you have been collecting, gets filtered through one thing before it reaches your sense of self, the voice in your head. That voice is not neutral. It is not objective. It is not a reliable narrator of your experience. It is a habit, a deeply ingrained pattern of self-talk that was shaped by every significant person who ever spoke to you about who you are, before you had the capacity to question their verdict. And for most people, that voice is not kind. It catastrophizes, it diminishes, it magnifies failure and minimizes success. It reminds you of the worst moments, at the moments when you most need to remember the best ones. It is, for many people, the primary obstacle between them and the confidence they are fully capable of having. The research in this area is unambiguous. People who learn to manage their inner dialogue not to silence it, not to replace it with toxic positivity, but to challenge it, reframe it, and hold it to the same evidentiary standard they would hold any other source of information. Those people consistently outperform people of equal or greater ability who have not developed this skill. Your inner voice is not telling you the truth. It is telling you its truth, shaped by fear and history and incomplete information. Start questioning it every single day. When it delivers a verdict on your worth, ask for the evidence. When it predicts failure, ask what it is basing that on. When it tells you that the other person is better, ask whether that is a fact or a feeling dressed as a fact. This is not easy. The voice is practiced and it is fast, but you are faster and you have something it doesn't, the ability to see it clearly, which is the beginning of everything. Here's the catch. Confidence is not a gift. It is not a personality type. It is not something that other people have and you don't. It is a practice built from action, evidence, and the decision made daily to be a fair witness to yourself, not a harsh judge, not a blind admirer, a fair witness, one who sees the failures clearly and the growth clearly, the fears clearly, and the courage that showed up anyway. That witness developed over time, with patience, with the consistency of someone who has decided that they deserve an accurate account of who they are. That is where real confidence lies, not in the performance, in the truth. Save this and rewatch it later. Like and subscribe for more helpful videos.